Question is that the motion be agreed to. Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, for getting my name right. Mr Speaker, I move that all the words after that be deleted and replaced with "This House express no confidence in this National-led government because this is a government that has given up on the future, that has no plan to prepare New Zealand for the future, that is more interested in scoring political points than solving the big problems facing our country, and is letting the Kiwi dream slip away." Mr Speaker, it is great to be back after a wonderful summer. It's a bit disappointing to see that the Prime Minister is less tanned and more red in the face, but that's what happens sometimes with a Christmas break where you fret about what's actually going on. Very pleased to see that Michael Woodhouse has returned, that we've got through a summer with not a single worm farmer suffering a fatality or a serious harm incident, and that the lavender cutters have got through their summer as well in good ship shape. And I want to congratulate Judith Collins, because what Minister of the Crown has come back to Cabinet, made such a return, and in such a short space of time, had such a dramatic impact not only on New Zealand but internationally, because within a month of Judith Collins coming back to Cabinet, our rankings on the corruption index went down 2 places. And so, for a minister who knows all about conflicts of interest, it is amazing to see the contributions that she has already made. The Prime Minister made a reference to Taranaki and the roads, and I was very pleased to be at Taranaki this year, swimming on Old Kura Beach, driving on its roads. And they do need better roads, because if there's one thing that the unemployment figures have told us about Taranaki, it is the rapid rate at which people are leaving that province, because there are no job opportunities there, and 4,000 people have left in the last year alone. Thank you, National Government. Thank you, National Government. I was very pleased to be at Waitangi in the weekend just gone. I'm very pleased, actually, that we had an extended Waitangi weekend. Thank you to the fine work of David Clark, MP, and Grant Robertson, who drafted the original bill, other MPs on this side of the House, and of course Peter Dunn, who very generously supported that bill because he at least is in touch with Middle New Zealand and the holidays that they need. But it was very good to be there, because that was at a very important place to be on a very important occasion. And I say, Prime Minister, it is a place for the head of government to be on the day that we celebrate the founding of this nation and the founding document. And I would repeat to Uraro Flavel's prayer, in fact, that he gave, that the Prime Minister return there to be part of that important national celebration. Mr Speaker, that was a statement, if you could call it that, that has absolutely no vision, no plan for New Zealand at a time that we desperately need one. It was reheated, recycled, and nothing new. So we have the big announcement. The big State of the Nation address was the City Rail Link. It is the City Rail Link. It doesn't go by any other name. A policy that the Labor Party has supported from the outset, championed, argued for, supported. And the new mayor at the end of this year will be the next great champion of it, and he'll do a fantastic job in it. But what is interesting is that as that cause has been put up and argued for, it is interesting to see what former ministers of transport from that government have said. Well, let me count the ways. Let me count the ways. So there was a Mr Brownlee who was a transport minister, and he said at one point, "I take big issue with the suggestion that the City Rail Link is helpful or popular."
How many positions?
And then he went on to say, "This valiant attempt to make the CRL stack up struggles to make the case." Well, something's happened in the meantime, because the case has been made and the CRL is on its way. There was another position from another minister, Mr Joyce. Stephen, I think it was Mr Joyce, not a Mr Little. No, it was Mr Joyce, a Stephen Joyce. And he is the master of flip-flops, let's face it, after Friday. Now, he said, Mr Joyce, the master of flip-flops, said, "That's not smart transport, that's pouring money down the hole." That's pouring money down the hole. The man who took The man who took 21 years to get his degree in zoology, he knows about pouring money down the hole, and so he would know all about that. So, Mr. Speaker, there is no plan, there is no vision. They've reheated the city rail link policy because they know that that's what Auckland desperately needs. And they know that the right-thinking people, the sensible-thinking people, have been championing that cause for many years now, and at long last, the government has been dragged kicking and screaming up the purple cycleway of Auckland to get to the point where they now have to support it. But that's not the first flip-flop. That's not the first flip-flop from this government, either in government or in opposition. We know what their track record is like. Remember their opposition to interest-free student loans?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely diametrically opposed to it, and mysteriously, once they're in government, nothing happens.
No.
And then they were opposed to KiwiSaver, that thing that is now, what, 2.5 million Kiwis now signed up to, helping millions of Kiwis build up their little nest egg.
Never work, he said.
Never worked, don't want it, deeply opposed to it. What happened when they got into government?
No ideas.
Nothing changed. And then there's working for families. Remember communism by stealth. Remember communism by stealth. Shocking stuff. Vile stuff that was going to be gone by lunchtime. And they got into government, and 8 years on, we're still waiting, or they're still waiting. They know that it's good for New Zealand. This is the multi-positional, flip-flopping national government. They do it all the time, and they're doing it again. Mr. Speaker, it is time we had a government of vision. Not the visionless, passionless lot we got over there, but a government that understood the issues facing New Zealanders. And what New Zealanders are looking for now more than ever before is a government that is principled, a government that can look out to the long-term future and see what the issues are and understand what needs to happen today to build a better future for tomorrow. That's what New Zealanders are looking for. Not the pussyfooting around, the mincing, the politicking, the point scoring all over that we get on that sort of side. They crow about the unemployment rate. What they won't tell New Zealanders is the reason why unemployment's gone down is that thousands and thousands of New Zealanders have just given up. They've stopped looking for work. They're no longer part of the labour force, according to the Household Labour Force survey. They've just given up. They've lost hope. Now, that's one easy way to reduce your unemployment, but what a dreadful way to treat New Zealanders. Hard-working New Zealanders who want nothing other than to get an opportunity to work and to get ahead. Well, that's what Labour is about, Mr. Speaker. The single biggest issue facing us is the issue of the future of work. And the conference that Grant Robertson went to was, funny enough, the same conference the senior Ministry of Social Development official went to.
You paid for that, John.
They went to, and the government paid for them. The government paid for them. They only went because after weeks of sort of asking the Minister of Workplace Relations and whatever else he is, are they going to go? Do they take this issue seriously? Now, he wasn't going to go. And somebody from MB wasn't going to go, so they sent somebody from MSD. But that is an important issue. And countries around the world are getting to grips with it. Germany, United States, other wealthy countries with good progressive leaders who are thinking about what it means, thinking about what we need to do today to build a better future tomorrow so that our people can fulfil their dreams, not what that government cares about at all. Don't care about it at all. And it was interesting when we announced the first of our major policies, which is about investing in people, investing in their futures, our education policy. Well, if you want to talk about multi-positions, let's go through them. So Mr. Joyce, first of all, he says, well, spending on tertiary education won't do anything. Whoops, he's the Ministry of Tertiary Education. So that line didn't last long. Then he had to change his position again because he spends over $1 billion on it already, so he had to change that position. Then he said, oh, it's going to cost too much. It's going to cost too much. But then he realised, of course, that they want to buy tax cuts. They're going to pay for tax cuts somehow. So that argument was going to wash. So then he goes on to the third position, which is, but the money's not there. But then Bill English knows that it is there because he's set it aside in future budgets. $1.5 billion. All over the place. No plan, no idea, don't care about the future of New Zealanders. And then, of course, the Prime Minister's response is to talk about waitresses because apparently they don't have a future. Apparently they don't get tertiary education, in spite of the fact that a good quarter of them are already people who are studying. Apparently on Planet Key, waitresses don't do education and training.
Pull the other one.
Fortunately, he's now promised never ever to talk about waitresses and the whole time he's Prime Minister again. And I simply make this point, Mr. Speaker, it's not the talking about them that's been the problem. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment briefly on the TPPA because there's a lot of misleading statements coming out of the government, because if there's one thing that is absolutely clear is they do not want a genuine public debate on that agreement. And I want to point out the TPPA is not a strategy, it's an agreement. And there are experts now around the world that no longer even describe it as a free trade agreement. They're calling it a managed trade agreement. Because at the end of it, 15 years into the agreement, if it comes live, we will still have tariffs, we will still have quotas, and we will not have free trade throughout that trading bloc. The genuinely independent economic analysis says the benefits for New Zealand are slim. And whether you look at the Tufts University economic analysis or the Peterson Institute economic analysis, the benefits for New Zealand are slim. Let's not kid ourselves. It's interesting how the Peterson Institute says the bulk of the value of that agreement will go to the US. But even in the US, it is not expected to generate any new jobs. And they are saying, let's get prepared for the transition. There are a lot of people who are going to be out of work. And one of the more dismal analyses for New Zealand even said that we should expect about 6,000 jobs to go under the TPPA. I hope that doesn't happen. But here's the point. There has been an absolute and abject failure of political handling of the TPPA by that government. They have been diabolical. They would not keep New Zealanders informed while it was being negotiated, would not keep New Zealanders informed while it was being negotiated, dumped it on New Zealand at the end of last year. Anybody who raises the most mildest criticism is shouted down as being somehow, not knowing what they're talking about. They are a disgrace. For a government that's been in 8 years, they lack confidence of the people to know what's going on and to have a genuine debate, and that's no good at all. Let's just remind ourselves too about the promises that were made of the TPPA. We're going to have a great deal on dairy. There is no deal on dairy. That's why the values to New Zealand of the TPPA have been downgraded so much. Not much better on meat. It is a managed trade agreement. It locks in agriculture subsidies for the big powers for yet a longer period of time. So that's just the economic stuff. But it's not the economic stuff that's of greatest concern to me. It is the stuff that has nothing to do with free trade. The fact that we now have to sign up to other people from other countries having a say on our lawmaking. The fact that under the TPPA, our parliament cannot pass a law to deal with land sales that we know is a major issue for many, many New Zealanders. It's not just the economic stuff, it's the non-economic factors. And I make no apology. I make no apology for drawing a clear distinction between economic interests and non-economic interests, and they are not tradable. You cannot set one off against the other. There is no such thing as trading off the constitutional rights of every New Zealand citizen with the economic interests of others, sparse as they are. Statecraft has two dimensions to it. It is about the nation-state that the government of the day is in charge of, and it is about our relationship with other nations. And statecraft does not involve selling out the interests of the nation-state that you're responsible for the interests of other nations who we interact with. It is a failure of statecraft, not a good thing about it. And I want to say this, and I am proud to say that on this side of the House, there is a new generation of leaders now emerging who are principled, and who reflect the demands of a new New Zealand, who are looking for leadership that is about doing the right thing for all New Zealanders. And that just demonstrates how out of touch, sadly out of touch, that miserable government actually is. They don't care about the people. They are a party of the elites. They are a party of the self-interested. They are not a party of New Zealand's best interests. And New Zealanders are looking for a party and for a leadership that will talk about the real issues, the long-term issues, the dreams that Kiwis hold dear, and their hopes and their ability to get ahead and to get an education and to look after themselves and their families and to be part of strong communities so that they can continue to be part of a great New Zealand. New Zealanders are looking for a new leadership that is about governing for security, for physical and personal security, and for economic security as well. And doing that does not require selling out to other more powerful states than our own. A generation that understands democracy as a process that involves and engages all citizens, that doesn't capture it for the special, the privileged and the elite. Mr. Speaker, that is the challenge. That is the challenge we have. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to lead a party that does have a vision for New Zealand, that is positive about the future for New Zealand, that does care about the people of New Zealand and the future that they face. The single biggest issue facing us is the future of work, Mr. Speaker, and we are going to deal with it. New Zealanders want to know that we do have a process, that we do have a plan to deal with those whose jobs are facing obsolescence. The experts tell us 46% of jobs today gone in 20 years' time. This government knows that. It's getting the same advice. It does absolutely nothing about it. And a last desperate measure, because we are seen to take the issue seriously, we're talking to our international counterparts, we're talking to international experts, Mr. Speaker, they don't care. And their failure to do anything about it, their failure to rise to that issue and to that occasion speaks volumes. That tells New Zealand that they do not care about ordinary New Zealanders and their future. Work is changing. Technology is emerging now that is going to affect every job. And we need to be doing something about it now. We need an education system fit for the 21st century, and we will make that investment. We need an economic strategy that is focused on New Zealanders, what they can do, and attracts investment, that doesn't kowtow and tug the forelocks to the powerful and hope that some crumbs might fall off the table of other countries, that actually supports New Zealanders and their ambitions. And that's what we're doing. A country whose economy is strong enough to make sure that New Zealanders do get the health care that they need, that everybody does have a warm, dry, safe home to live in. You cannot work and you cannot excel at work and you cannot fulfill your dreams, and you cannot look after your family if the roof over your head leaves you cold and damp and sucking in bacteria and mould because you have a government that doesn't care about the quality of our housing. That's the difference between our two parties. That's the difference between the Labour Party and the National Party. Ours is a party that understands New Zealanders, their ambitions, their hopes for the future. Ours is a party that is prepared to invest in that future, to rebuild New Zealand, to rebuild the dreams of New Zealanders and give them confidence and hope for the future. And Mr. Speaker, I look forward to that debate. I look forward to the debate over the next 2 years as New Zealanders see that there is one party that not only talks to New Zealanders but understands New Zealanders and reflects their aims and ambitions, and that is us, and I'm looking forward to this year.
The question is the amendment.